Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about equivalent fractions and how we can rename a fraction with a different name, but it still represents the same fractional amount. So let's look at these four pictures on the screen. Here I have a fraction represented. The fraction is 2/3. And then in this fraction I also have 2/3, but you can see it's broken up into more parts, but it still represents 2/3. In fact, all of these pictures here still show that 2/3, but they have different names even though they represent that 2/3. So this is really the fraction in its lowest, simplest form. It's 2/3. Now, if I want to make an equivalent fraction from 2/3, I do that by multiplying, and I do that by multiplying first the number of parts being shaded in or considered, and I can choose to multiply that by any number. To start off with, I might multiply it by 2. And if I multiply my 2 parts there by 2, I'm going to get my 4 parts here. And then if I multiply my 3 total parts that I've got in my fraction also by 2, I'm going to get my 6 parts here. So we can see the next equivalent fraction from 2/3. If we multiply both by 2, I'm going to get 4/6. So the next equivalent fraction here is 4/6. And to show what we did there, I'm going to use arrows and multiply them. So to get from 2 parts being considered to 4 parts here, here's the 2 and here's the 4, we multiplied that by 2. To get my next equivalent fraction. And whatever I do to the top, I also need to do to the bottom. So I need to multiply the bottom part of that fraction by 2 as well. And this gives me the total number of parts in consideration. So I have 2/3, and when I multiply the top and the bottom by 2, I get the next equivalent fraction, which is 4/6, but it still shows 2/3. If I want to get the next equivalent fraction, I need to look at my original fraction, and instead of multiply by 2, I need to multiply by 3. I'm going to use a different colour here to show that. So I started with my 2 parts here that are shaded in. If I want to consider the next equivalent fraction and multiply it by 3, that 2 shaded in parts multiplied by 3 now gives me 6 shaded in parts. So let's show that. This is what we did. We multiplied the 2 by 3 and we got 6 shaded in parts. And then I need to multiply for the total number of parts. If in the total number of parts there are 3 and I multiply that by 3, I'm going to get 9. So the next equivalent fraction to 2/3 is 6/9. These all equal 2/3. The last one here, you can see, is it's been multiplied again. The original fraction, 2/3, is now being multiplied 4 times. If I multiply the number of parts being considered by 4, I'm going to get 2 multiplied by 4 and get 8. And I would consider in this picture to have 8 shaded parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know there are going to be 8 shaded parts in consideration. If there are 3 in my total parts, I know I can multiply that 3 by 4. I'm finding the fourth equivalent fraction to 2/3. And if I do that, my total parts is 3. So 3 multiplied by 4 is going to be 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 total parts. So, the basic principle to finding equivalent fractions is basically the idea of multiplying by any number as long as I multiply by the same number on the top and the bottom. So let's choose a bigger number. Let's find an equivalent fraction by multiplying by 24. So the principle to know is whatever I multiply to the bottom, I need to multiply to the top, and I will find an equivalent fraction. Equivalent fractions are really important to know when we're adding and subtracting fractions that have different sized parts. We need to make sure they're the same sized parts to add them. So 2 times 24 is 48, and 3 times 24 is the same as 6 times 12, which is 72. So it's very easy to find equivalent fractions of a number. All we need to do is multiply them by the same number to the top as we do to the bottom. So here's another one. We're multiplying by 30, top and bottom, and we get another equivalent fraction, which is 60. And 30 times 3 is 90. Okay? So 60 90ths and 48 72ths are the same value as 2/3. 2/3 is just the simplest way of putting it.